If I had to start over in 2026, here's exactly how I'd build a business from zero. No followers, no money, no reputation, just skills and execution. And if you follow this formula, you won't need luck. You'll need discipline. It isn't. It's the same simple discipline it has always been. Understand human nature, solve a painful problem, and do it with more reliability and more integrity than the next person. That formula has worked for centuries, and it will work in 2026 and beyond, because people don't change as fast as technology does. What I would do is strip away every illusion, every excuse, and every distraction. I would observe what people already do, not what they say they want. I would search for inefficiencies that annoy them, costs that burden them, and outcomes they desperately want but fail to achieve. And then I would build something that delivers certainty where the market currently delivers doubt. In a world overflowing with noise, shortcuts, and grand promises, the person who thinks clearly, acts decisively, and commits stubbornly becomes rare, and rarity is valuable. I wouldn't rely on luck or timing. I would rely on reason, consistency, and an almost boring commitment to doing what works long after others get tired. If the game reset tomorrow, I would rebuild by picking the simplest path with the highest probability of success, and I would walk it with the patience and discipline that most people find uncomfortable. That's the advantage. That's the difference. And that's exactly how I'd do it. Studying reality before forming any strategy is the most reliable way to avoid the errors that destroy businesses long before they have a chance to grow. Most people rush into action because action feels productive, even when it is blind. They choose an industry because it seems exciting, a business model because it looks profitable on social media, or a product because someone else succeeded with it. They rarely stop to ask whether the market actually wants what they plan to create, whether the customer even cares about what they are building, or whether the economics of the idea makes sense over time. To study reality is to observe how the world works without distortion, without ego, without the comforting illusions that people use to justify bad ideas. It means standing in front of the facts, not your fantasies, and letting those facts determine your direction. Reality always gives clues if you pay attention. Markets show where money actually moves. Customers reveal what they repeatedly complain about or happily pay for. Businesses that survive decades show what structures are durable, while the ones that collapse quickly show what patterns you must avoid. Studying reality means noticing incentives, because incentives explain more about human behavior than any theory or motivational idea. When you understand what motivates people to buy, sell, avoid, delay, complain, return, repeat, or recommend, your strategy becomes grounded instead of wishful. Ignoring incentives is one of the fastest ways to create a business that looks good on paper but fails in practice. Studying reality also requires the ability to separate signal from noise. In 2026, noise is louder than ever. Everyone is offering advice, predicting trends, and promoting whatever benefits them personally. Most people mistake popularity for accuracy. They see a trending idea and assume it must be smart. But reality cares nothing about popularity. It rewards ideas that work and punishes ideas that don't, regardless of how many people talk about them. Your job is to observe the real drivers underneath surface level excitement. When you see 10 people selling the same service, what matters is not that it's popular, but whether there is sustained demand, pricing power, deliverability, and long-term viability. The discipline of studying reality forces you to question your assumptions. Every entrepreneur has biases they don't recognize. They overestimate how much customers care, underestimate how competitive the market is, and assume their idea is better than alternatives, even when they have no evidence. Questioning your assumptions is uncomfortable because it may reveal that your idea isn't good enough yet. But this discomfort saves you from spending years building something that was doomed from the beginning. Clear thinking is not about being cynical. It is about being honest with yourself before the market forces honesty onto you. To study reality effectively, you observe customers first, not through surveys, but through behavior. People rarely articulate their true motivations, but their actions reveal them. If customers consistently buy a certain type of service, the reason is buried in their patterns. If they repeatedly abandon certain solutions, the reason is buried in their objections. The job is to understand these patterns without distorting them with your own hopes. A business built on observed behavior is more robust than one built on imagined demand. Another part of studying reality is analyzing what already works. There is a mistake beginners make. They try to innovate too early. They want to be different before they understand what is proven. Reality shows that most enduring businesses are built on fundamentals that have existed for decades, sometimes centuries. Human nature has not changed. People still pay for convenience, certainty, speed, and reduced complexity. They still avoid risk, confusion, and unpredictability. You do not need to invent a new desire. You need to serve an old one with greater efficiency or clarity. Studying reality also means understanding constraints. Every market has limitations, and every business model has weaknesses. The worst strategies are created when people only imagine upside and ignore downside. Reality demands that you examine both. What does it cost to acquire a customer? How long do they stay? What problems arise at scale? How many competitors will enter once the idea becomes profitable? These questions anchor your thinking in the real mechanics of business instead of the superficial excitement of the idea. When you fully study reality, strategy becomes simpler. You are no longer guessing. You are aligning your actions with how the world already works, not how you wish it worked. Instead of forcing your idea onto the market, you let the market shape your idea. Most of success comes from avoiding stupidity, and the clearest path to avoiding stupidity is to see things as they are, not as you prefer them to be. Choosing a problem that remains valuable, even when trends fade, is one of the most reliable approaches to building a business that survives market cycles, new technologies, and shifts in consumer attention. Most opportunities that look exciting in the moment disappear quickly because they are built on temporary hype rather than permanent human needs. When you base your business on a problem that doesn't go away, you build something that can endure competition, downturns, and technological changes. The key is to understand the difference between a momentary opportunity and a timeless problem. A momentary opportunity is driven by novelty, a timeless problem is driven by necessity. One fades as quickly as it appears, while the other persists because it is rooted in human behavior, economic incentives, or unavoidable friction that people experience over and over again. People will always trade money to reduce pain, uncertainty, complication, and inefficiency. These are the types of problems that stay valuable regardless of what year it is. Technology may change the tools people use, but it rarely changes the core frustrations they face. For example, businesses will always need customers. They will always need ways to operate more efficiently. They will always seek clearer communication, better decision-making, and trustworthy execution. Individuals will always strive for better health, stronger finances, easier lives, and more confidence. The industries may evolve, but the underlying demand remains. If you anchor your business to these persistent needs, you avoid the trap of building something that only works during a specific moment in time. Choosing a valuable, lasting problem also protects you from emotional decision-making. Many entrepreneurs fall in love with the excitement of new platforms, new tools, or new trends. They believe early adoption will guarantee success, but early adoption is only an advantage when the trend aligns with a problem people have had for years and will continue having in the future. If you build something solely because it feels fresh, you tie your business to the lifespan of that trend. When the attention shifts elsewhere, your business loses relevance. Long-term problems act like anchors. They stabilize your strategy even as the environment changes. To identify a problem with lasting value, you look past the noise and observe what people consistently struggle with. You pay attention to complaints that repeat year after year. You notice where people are forced to tolerate inefficiencies because no one has improved them yet. You examine industries where customers are used to disappointment because the standard of service is low. These are signals of durable demand. A problem that has existed for decades and still persists today is unlikely to vanish next year. In fact, the solutions around it may become more profitable as the world becomes more complex, because people will pay even more for relief. Another part of choosing a lasting problem is evaluating how deeply it affects the customer. The more painful the problem, the stronger the purchasing intent. A business built on a shallow inconvenience may generate interest but not commitment. A business built on a deep pain generates recurring revenue and long-term loyalty. Customers do not forget the people who solve their biggest problems. They often become advocates without being asked. Pain is durable if human behavior is durable. If you aim for deep pain points rather than trendy desires, your business becomes essential instead of optional. Choosing a problem that remains valuable also makes your marketing easier. You don't have to educate the market about why the problem matters. They already know it matters. You don't need to convince them it exists. They are already experiencing it. You don't need to persuade them of its urgency. The urgency is built into their daily life or income. This reduces the friction in your sales process and increases the efficiency of your messaging. When the problem is timeless, your message stays relevant even as new competitors appear. There is also a strategic advantage in building around problems that get worse over time. Some issues expand as populations grow, as technology spreads, or as industries mature. A problem that intensifies with scale creates a business model that grows naturally. For example, as more businesses digitize, they face more complexity. As more people enter global markets, competition increases. As more tasks move online, attention becomes harder to capture. Problems like these become more valuable to solve each year because the environment amplifies them. Selecting a durable problem forces you to think long-term. It encourages you to design solutions that remain useful even as tools evolve. You become less reliant on fast results and more focused on building something with deep roots. A business built this way develops a strong foundation. because its purpose is tied to something stable. When others chase what is hot, you focus on what will still matter 5 or 10 years from now. That angle creates resilience, and resilience is one of the greatest advantages any entrepreneur can have. Developing a skill that compounds over time is one of the most dependable ways to create leverage, especially when starting from nothing. Most people enter business looking for shortcuts, but shortcuts fade quickly while skills accumulate quietly and relentlessly. A skill that compounds is one that grows more valuable the more you practice it, and its returns multiply as you apply it across different situations, industries, and opportunities. Unlike luck, which is inconsistent, or trends, which expire endures, it gives you pricing power, independence, and the ability to adapt when your environment changes. It becomes an asset you carry with you no matter where you go or what business model you choose in the future. A compounding skill is not something you learn once and leave untouched. It is something that improves with repetition, reflection, and deliberate practice. Skills like communication, persuasion, problem solving, analysis, writing, sales, and strategic thinking fall into this category. They are not tied to a specific tool or platform. Tools change, platforms rise and fall, but a person who can write clearly, think rationally, persuade effectively, or solve difficult problems remains in demand regardless of how the world shifts. A compounding skill is valuable because it addresses fundamental human and business needs. No algorithm replaces trust. No technology eliminates the need for clear thinking. No automation removes the desire for effective communication between people and organizations. Developing such a skill also shields you from the instability of early entrepreneurial life. When you have a strong skill, you don't fear losing your job or failing a business because you can always provide value somewhere else. People with durable skills never stay unemployed for long because they understand how to solve meaningful problems. This creates a mental freedom that fuels better decision-making. Decisions made under desperation tend to be poor. Decisions made with confidence in your abilities tend to be rational. A skill gives you options, and options reduce fear, and reduced fear leads to better judgment. Compounding skills also create leverage. Leverage is the ability to produce outsized results from the same amount of effort. Someone who becomes skilled in sales can close bigger deals with the same amount of time. Someone who becomes skilled in writing can influence thousands with a single piece of work. Someone who becomes skilled in content creation can create distribution that drives customers for years. Someone who becomes skilled in systems can scale operations with fewer mistakes. A beginner often thinks leverage comes from money or connections, but in reality, the first form of leverage you can acquire, without permission, without investment, without credentials, is skill. Developing a compounding skill requires patience because the rewards do not appear immediately. Early on, progress is slow and invisible. Many people quit at this stage because they mistake slow progress for failure. But the early stage is where the foundation forms. Every hour of practice, every mistake, every iteration is building something beneath the surface. Compounding does not reward those who seek immediate payoff. It rewards those who endure the quiet, unglamorous part of improvement. Eventually, the skill crosses a threshold where its payoff increases dramatically. Opportunities that were once impossible become accessible simply because your capabilities have expanded. A compounding skill also amplifies every other decision you make. If you develop the skill of clear thinking, your strategies improve. If you develop the skill of communication, your relationships strengthen. If you develop the skill of sales, your income grows. If you develop the skill of operations, your business becomes more stable. These skills stack together and reinforce one another. The more you add, the more powerful each one becomes. You cannot predict which opportunity will appear in the future, but if your skill set is strong, you will be prepared to seize it when it arrives. Another advantage of compounding skills is that they allow you to compete differently. Instead of fighting over low margin opportunities or chasing saturated niches, you become valuable because of who you are, not because of the product you sell. When you possess a rare skill, you no longer compete on price. People seek you specifically because they trust your competence. This gives you negotiating power, freedom to choose your clients, and the ability to set your own terms. In a world where most people rely on tools, those who master timeless skills sit above the competition rather than beside it. Focusing on compounding skills also creates long-term resilience. If your business fails, your skill remains. If the economy shifts, your skill remains. If technology evolves, your skill remains. The stability of your life improves dramatically when your identity is not tied to a single job, a single platform, or a single external outcome. Your skills become a form of internal wealth, wealth that cannot be taken, copied, or lost easily. The world will always change, but a person who invests in compounding skills remains valuable precisely because they grow more adaptable with time. Creating an offer that reduces risk for the customer and increases their certainty of getting results is one of the most effective ways to build trust Differentiate yourself and command higher prices when starting a business. People do not buy products, they buy confidence that a problem they care about will be solved. When customers hesitate, it is rarely because they doubt the price. They hesitate because they doubt the outcome. They fear wasting time, money, or effort. The purpose of a strong offer is to eliminate those fears by structuring value so clearly and logically that the customer sees accepting the offer as the safest option, not the riskiest. When your offer removes uncertainty, customers feel protected, and protected customers become paying customers. Most offers fail because they rely too much on describing features instead of guaranteeing outcomes. Features might be impressive, but they do not reduce the customer's risk. A business that simply lists what it includes forces the buyer to imagine whether the offer will work for them. A business that guarantees an outcome removes the need for imagination. Certainty is a powerful force in decision-making because uncertainty is expensive for customers. The more unknowns they face, the harder they cling to their money. When you reduce their uncertainty, you make the buying decision effortless. A strong offer starts with understanding the exact result the customer wants. People do not pay for effort. They pay for outcomes. They don't pay for coaching. They pay for losing weight, getting leads, closing deals, fixing a problem, or achieving clarity. They don't care how many calls you include or how many hours you spend. They care about whether their life will improve. When you build an offer around the deepest desire of the customer rather than the mechanics of your service, you tap into a level of value that competitors struggle to match. Once you clarify the desired outcome, the next step is reducing the customer's perceived risk. Risk comes in many forms: fear of failure, fear of hidden costs, fear of wasted time, fear of not understanding the process, fear of having to do too much work. Your offer becomes stronger as you remove these layers of fear. One way to reduce risk is through guarantees. A guarantee might be financial, such as offering a refund if results aren't achieved, or structural, such as providing additional support until the outcome is met. Guarantees show that you are confident in your process and willing to share responsibility for the result. This transforms the buying experience from a gamble into a partnership. Another way to reduce risk is through clarity. Ambiguous offers create hesitation. Clear offers create trust. When customers know exactly what they will receive, the timeline for receiving it, the steps involved, and the support available to them, they approach the decision with more confidence. Clarity also demonstrates competence, and competence reassures customers that they are making a rational choice. A clear offer is precise, transparent, and easy to understand. It removes the mental effort the customer would otherwise have to exert to imagine the process. An effective offer also provides certainty through a strong delivery mechanism. Customers feel safe when they know the process is organized, tested, and supported by evidence. Testimonials, case studies, and examples of previous results serve as proof that the offer is not theoretical. People rely on proof to validate decisions because proof reduces the psychological cost of committing. When customers see that others have already succeeded under the same conditions, their doubt diminishes. Proof creates a feeling of stability, and stability makes purchasing easier. Pricing plays a subtle role in reducing risk as well. Higher prices can paradoxically increase a customer's certainty because they signal seriousness, commitment, and quality. Cheap offers often trigger suspicion because customers associate low prices with low outcomes. When your offer is structured to deliver a strong result, pricing it appropriately reinforces its value. Customers do not want the cheapest solution, they want the safest and most effective one. When an offer is priced to reflect its certainty, customers view it as an investment rather than a cost. Another factor that strengthens an offer is simplicity. Customers trust simple offers because complexity creates opportunities for misunderstanding, disappointment, or hidden obligations. A simple offer is easier to explain, easier to sell, and easier for the customer to accept. When your offer revolves around one clear result rather than a bundle of disconnected services, it appears stronger and more credible. Simplicity removes confusion, and removing confusion increases the customer's comfort with moving forward. Building an offer that reduces risk and increases certainty is ultimately an exercise in seeing the purchase from the customer's perspective. It requires understanding what they fear, what they hope for, and what makes them hesitate. When you construct an offer that addresses these psychological realities, you create something more powerful than a product. You create trust. And trust, once established, becomes the engine of your business.